It's a typical Saturday afternoon, but there's a palpable tension that seems to settle in the room, unspoken yet ever-present. The door chimes as Linda enters, her smile radiant, unaware of the storm waiting for her. This was supposed to be a moment of joy, a moment of love, a moment that would change everything. But that afternoon, it was a ticking bomb, ready to explode. I sit at the small corner table, my heart pounding in my chest. The box sits in front of me, small, inconspicuous, but inside, it holds everything I've ever wanted, and everything I fear I might lose. My hands are clammy, but I try to steady them. This should be easy, right? After all, Linda and I had been friends for years. We shared everything, laughter, secrets, pain. But I'm about to give her something I've never given anyone before, my heart. As Linda walks toward me, her laugh carrying across the room, I feel a knot in my stomach. She's still smiling, unaware. She's never looked more beautiful. And that's when I realize, this is it. The moment. I'm about to ask her to be mine. For real. I stand, my nerves beginning to betray me. My voice is shaky, but I manage to whisper, Linda, there's something I need to ask you. Her smile falters for just a second, an uncertainty crossing her face. A momentary pause. Was it a flash of recognition? Maybe she sensed it before. I wonder, has she known? Was she expecting this? I open the box. She doesn't see it yet, too busy adjusting her seat. But then, when she does look at it, I catch the flicker of confusion in her eyes. She sees the ring, sees the question in my eyes, and something shifts. She stares at the box. Her hand slowly lifts to cover her mouth. It's not excitement I see, but something else. She sits back in her chair as if the air around her suddenly got too thick. She opens her mouth to speak, but the words that come out are not the ones I was expecting. Jake, she says, her voice quiet but firm. I think you've misread this. And that's when I freeze. Those words, those three little words, cut deeper than anything I could have imagined. I think you've misread this. Her face doesn't show pity, but confusion. I try to hold her gaze, but the longer I look, the more it feels like I'm fading into the background. The cafe is silent. The world outside the window keeps moving, but here, in this moment, I am stuck in a loop of disbelief. Her next words hit harder than anything she could have said. I'm sorry, Jake, but I see you as a friend. I don't feel that way about you. The air in my chest tightens. The weight of her rejection presses down on me like a heavy stone. I'm still holding the box, the ring inside it glinting in the sunlight that filters through the cafe windows. But it feels like it's burning my hand now, a painful reminder of the future that won't be. She doesn't seem to notice. She looks down at the table, nervously fidgeting with her napkin. She's waiting for me to say something, but I can't. My mouth is dry, my thoughts scattered. It's like the world has stopped turning, and I'm just stuck here in this frozen moment with no way out. I try to speak, but all that comes out is a whisper, a failed attempt at holding onto some shred of hope. Linda, you can't. I thought you were the one. Her eyes meet mine again, but now there's something else there. Not love, not affection, just an emptiness that I can't ignore. I'm sorry, she says again, her voice soft but resolute. I never meant to lead you on. I thought you knew this. I thought we were just friends. And then, before I can react, she stands up. The chair scrapes against the floor, the sound almost deafening. I have to go, she says, her voice distant. She leaves the cafe as quickly as she entered, leaving me behind, alone, staring at the empty chair across from me, where she had been just moments before. I don't know how long I sit there, the cafe now a blur of background noise and movement. My heart is pounding in my ears, but it's as though I'm no longer a part of the world around me. Linda's gone. The woman I thought was the love of my life has walked out of it, and I'm left with nothing but this feeling of utter devastation, the weight of rejection crushing me from every side. The box, now closed, feels heavy in my hands. I stare at it for a long time, as though somehow, if I hold on to it long enough, she might come back. But I know deep down, she won't. Before we continue, 80% of our viewers haven't subscribed to this channel yet. We'd really appreciate your support. Please consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss a moment. And don't forget to leave a comment with your thoughts. We love hearing from you. She won't come back, and she never really was mine to lose. I think back to the first time I met Linda, back when we were just kids, before any of this happened, before I ever started hoping, before I let myself believe she could be the one. She wasn't the first person I ever met, but she was the first person who felt like home, who made me feel like I mattered. It was a random Tuesday in high school when I first saw her, sitting alone by the lockers, eyes glued to a book that I knew by heart. Linda had this quiet intensity about her, something that made people take notice without even trying. Her hair was always pulled back in a messy bun, and her glasses, always slightly crooked, added to the charm that nobody could explain but everyone noticed. She wasn't like the other girls. She didn't care for the drama or the popularity contests that seemed to consume most of our school. She was just Linda, real, honest. She spoke with such confidence, even when she was quiet. I was drawn to that. I remember being nervous the first time I approached her. I had this dumb idea in my head that I had to impress her. I was this awkward, quiet guy, always on the outside looking in. But Linda, she didn't need anything from me except for me to be, well, me. That's what she told me the first time we talked, and something about that just stuck with me. I didn't have to try, didn't have to put on some act. I could just be me. Over the years, we became best friends, inseparable almost. We shared everything. School stress, family issues, our favorite TV shows, random thoughts at 2 a.m. about life and the universe. With her, I felt like I wasn't alone in the world. I never wanted to admit it at first, but slowly, over time, I started realizing maybe I wasn't just in love with her ideas or her personality. Maybe it was her. It hit me one night, when we were sitting together in my old beat-up car, parked by the lake. We'd spent hours talking, and the stars were beginning to fade as the sun crept up. Linda had her feet propped up on the dashboard, and I couldn't help but watch the way the early morning light caught the strands of her hair. She was so alive, so beautiful, and I felt it then, that undeniable pull in my chest. It wasn't friendship. It wasn't the kind of love you feel for a sister. This was something else, something more. And in that moment, I realized I couldn't keep pretending it was just platonic. Not anymore. But I couldn't tell her. Couldn't risk ruining everything we had. I kept my feelings buried deep inside, letting them grow, letting them fester, until it felt like I was suffocating under the weight of it all. I watched as she went on dates with other guys. Guys who made her laugh in ways I couldn't. Guys who could hold her hand in public, who had no fear of what it meant to love her. I told myself I was happy for her. I told myself that being her best friend was enough. But it wasn't. It never would be. It's funny, though. She could never see it. Every time I drop a hint, she'd laugh it off, brushing it off as a joke or some ridiculous fantasy. I don't think she ever saw the way I looked at her, the way I could hardly breathe when she smiled, when she was happy. And maybe that was the problem. She never saw me the way I saw her. But I thought, deep down, that one day, she might. I thought, after all these years, after all the moments we shared, she'd realize it too. She'd see what I saw. That I wasn't just some guy who had always been there. That I was the one who could make her happy. I thought I could be the one she'd turn to, the one she'd fall for. But I was wrong. The reality hit me hard. I started noticing the small things. The way her eyes lit up when she talked about Dylan. The way she'd blush when he'd text her. I tried to ignore it. Tried to convince myself I was just being paranoid. But it was always there, lurking in the back of my mind. I should have seen it coming. I should have realized that I had been living in a fantasy. That Linda had already made up her mind long before that cafe. She never saw me the way I saw her. And no matter how hard I tried to show her, no matter how many times I was there for her, it wouldn't change anything. I've replayed the moments over and over in my head. Times when I could have told her how I felt, times when I could have taken the leap, but never did. I remember the way she laughed when I made a joke about us being together, how her eyes danced with mischief but quickly shifted to something else when I pushed it further. I remember the times she'd give me a hug, and I'd hold on to her just a moment too long, hoping, wishing for something more. But she never said anything. She never gave me any indication that it might be real. And that's what hurts the most now. I should have known. I should have understood that we were never going to be more than friends. But I let myself get lost in the idea of us, in the dream of her being mine. I thought I knew her, thought I understood her. But now, looking back, I realize I barely knew anything at all. When she left that cafe, it wasn't just her walking away. It was the whole life I had built around her, the dream I'd kept alive, shattering in an instant. And now I'm left here, picking up the pieces of something I thought I could never lose. But the truth is, I never had it to begin with. I thought I had her. I thought I knew what it meant to have someone in your life. But I was wrong. I was never more than a placeholder, a safe choice when she had nothing better to do. And that realization, the one that cut through everything I thought I knew, it left me hollow inside. Empty. I try to ignore it, to push it down. I try to convince myself that everything will be okay. But every time I see her name light up on my phone, every time I hear her voice, I can't stop the anger from bubbling up. She's moved on. She's with Dylan now, laughing, living, probably never even thinking about me. Just the way it's always been. And I can't stand it. I can't. There's this part of me that wants to scream, that wants to grab her and shake her and demand answers. Why didn't she see me? Why didn't she feel the way I felt? Why did I waste all these years pretending? I don't know how it happened, but the jealousy starts creeping in. I see her with Dylan, and the jealousy isn't just that she's with someone else. It's that he's everything I'm not, everything I wish I could be. She's laughing at something he said, and I can't help but feel this pang deep inside me, like my chest is being torn apart. I begin to obsess over them. I watch their every move, their photos, their texts. It's like I can't escape it. It's all over social media, her with him, looking happy, laughing. It's like a constant reminder that I was never enough, that I never mattered. I want to stop. I want to tell myself it's over, to cut the ties that bind me to this hopeless love. But I can't. I can't because every time I see them together, I can't stop the thoughts from spiraling. It eats at me, festers like a wound that never heals. I'm standing in the park one afternoon, and I see them together again. This time, it's worse. They're walking hand in hand, laughing like there's no care in the world. Linda's head is tilted back, her hair dancing in the wind, and Dylan is making her laugh like he's the only one who knows how. My chest tightens. That knot in my stomach is back, tighter than ever, and I'm so furious I can barely breathe. I try to shake it off. I try to tell myself to leave, to walk away before I do something I'll regret. But I can't. I stand there in the distance, watching them, feeling like an outsider in my own life. I feel so small, so insignificant. My hands are shaking, my teeth clenched, and all I can think about is how unfair it all is. How could she choose him over me? I start thinking about all the times I was there for her, all the times I supported her when no one else did, all the times she turned to me when things were tough. I gave her everything. I gave her my time, my energy, my heart. And what did I get in return? A slap in the face, a laugh, a dismissal. That's what I got. I know it's not rational. I know it's crazy to think this way. But the jealousy turns into anger. And the anger turns into something darker, something more dangerous. I start to plot, not in any logical sense. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that I've been denied. Denied love. Denied the life I thought I deserved. Denied by her. And I can't just sit here and take it anymore. I tell myself I'll let it go, that I'll move on. But the rage consumes me. It clouds my thoughts. Every time I hear her name, every time I see her smile with Dylan, it feels like a betrayal. I start imagining things. How can I make her feel what I'm feeling? How can I show her what it's like to have your heart shattered in front of you? I try to act normal around her. We still text sometimes, still talk about the little things. But it's not the same anymore. Every word she says feels like a reminder of everything I've lost. It's like she's unaware of the damage she's done, unaware that I'm falling apart just beneath the surface. I keep telling myself I'm fine. I tell myself I can move past it. But deep down, I know the truth. I'm not fine. And every time I try to act like I am, I'm lying to myself. I see them again, Linda and Dylan, at a coffee shop one afternoon. They're laughing, sitting so close it's like they're the only two people in the world. And as I stand outside, watching them through the window, something in me snaps. It's like a switch has flipped. I'm so consumed by the anger, by the need to make her see me, to make her feel what I'm feeling, that I can't stop myself. It's not about getting her back anymore. It's not even about love. It's about making her understand, making her see how deep this pain goes. And in that moment, I realize something that makes my blood run cold. I'm no longer the guy she turned to for comfort. I'm no longer her friend. And that thought, it changes everything. In that moment, standing on the edge of the sidewalk, watching Linda laugh with Dylan, I realize just how far I've fallen. I'm no longer her best friend. I'm no longer the person she can count on. I'm not the guy who she'll turn to when things get tough. That place was never mine. It was always his. I feel this heat rising inside of me. It's not just anger anymore. It's something deeper, something darker. I can't explain it. It feels like a fire that's burning inside of me, getting hotter with every passing second. The rage is suffocating, and all I can think of is the betrayal. The betrayal that she never loved me the way I loved her. That after everything I've done, I was just another guy in her life who didn't matter. I don't know how long I stand there. I feel like I'm frozen in place. My whole body tense, as though any movement would make me break. It's as though the world has paused around me, and the only thing left is the pounding in my head, the frantic thoughts racing through my mind. I need to do something. I can't let this go. I can't just walk away and pretend it doesn't hurt. I have to make her see what she's done. I have to make her feel it, feel the same pain that has been eating me alive. The thought is there, in the back of my mind, but it starts to take root. It starts to grow. And the more I think about it, the more I feel it. The need for revenge. I walk into the coffee shop, my hands shaking, but my mind locked on one singular thought. Make her feel this. Make her understand that you've been the one standing by her all these years, while Dylan's only been around for a fraction of that time. Make her see who really cares about her. I know it's wrong. I know this isn't me. But the pain is so consuming that I can't think straight. I can't think about anything other than the desperate need to lash out. To make her regret her choice. To make her see that I'm not just the guy who she's casually brushed aside. I walk up to her and Dylan. I hear her voice first, her laughter echoing in the air, and it sends a shiver down my spine. He's leaning in too close, his arm around her shoulders, and I can't take it. I feel like I'm going to snap. I hear myself speak before I can stop it. So, this is it? You've really moved on? Linda looks up at me, startled. But her face quickly shifts into something guarded. Jake, she says, her voice a little too calm, too measured. We've been through this already. You don't get to do that. I cut her off, the words coming out sharper than I intended. You don't get to pretend like this doesn't matter to me. You don't get to choose him over me and walk away like it's nothing. I see Dylan's face shift from calm to confused, and that only stirs the anger deeper inside me. How dare he? How dare he come into my life and take her away? He's just another guy, another face in a crowd. But I've been here for her. I've been the one who's always shown up, who's always cared. Jake, please, Linda says, her voice softer now, but there's no warmth in it. This isn't about you. This is about me, about what I need right now. And I don't need you to make this harder than it already is. Something inside me snaps. I don't know what it is, but it feels like a raw nerve has been exposed, and all the pain, all the frustration, all the bitterness I've been holding in suddenly comes pouring out. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I can't stop myself. I step forward, my breath ragged, and before I even realize it, I grab her arm. I don't mean to hurt her, but I need her to feel this. I need her to feel the weight of everything I've been carrying. I need her to see the damage she's done. The moment I touch her, I feel her flinch, and that's when I realize I've gone too far. But it's too late. The rage is already consuming me, clouding everything. Dylan stands up, his face filled with disbelief. I don't care. I can't care. All I care about is making Linda see how much I hurt, how much she's destroyed me. Let go of her, Dylan yells, stepping between us, but I'm not listening anymore. My vision is clouded with fury, my hands shaking, and the words that come out of my mouth are not ones I can take back. You don't get to have her. You don't get to take everything from me. And then everything happens in a blur. The next few moments are chaos. I don't remember much, just the sounds of people yelling, Linda's shocked expression, and the cold realization that I've crossed a line I can never uncross. Dylan's shoving me, and I'm pushing back. My thoughts are a mess, and all I can focus on is the feeling of Linda's arm slipping out of my grasp as she stumbles backward. The fear in her eyes is more than I can take. It's like a punch to the gut. She's terrified of me, and somehow, I've become the villain in my own story. The anger fades as quickly as it came, replaced by something even worse, guilt. I've destroyed everything. I've lost her for good now. There's no coming back from this. I look around, the chaos still unfolding, and I realize I'm standing in the middle of a storm I created. I'm the one who started it. And now, I have to live with the consequences. The truth I've been running from is clearer than ever. I've lost her, not just to Dylan, but to myself. I've become someone I never wanted to be. Standing there, breathing heavily, with my hands trembling, I realize the truth. The reality of what I've done is sinking in, and it feels like a weight that's too heavy to carry. The anger, the jealousy, the hurt, none of it justifies what I did. I've crossed a line I can't uncross. I've hurt her. And worse yet, I've hurt myself. The noise around me is deafening, but it feels distant, like I'm hearing it from underwater. Linda's face is burned into my memory, her eyes wide with fear, and Dylan's hands pushing me away, his anger and disbelief clear in every movement. I look at them both, and then I look at myself. I don't recognize the person I've become. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't the way it was supposed to go. I turn and walk away. I don't know where I'm going, but I can't stay here. I can't face her. Not like this. The guilt is suffocating. The weight of what I've done presses down on me, each step feeling heavier than the last. I walk for what feels like hours, my mind spinning, my thoughts a jumbled mess of anger, regret, and self-loathing. I didn't want this. I never wanted to hurt her. I should have walked away. I should have let it go, but I didn't. And now I'm left with nothing but the ruins of everything I thought I had with her. I know it's over. I know that what I did has shattered everything between us. There's no coming back from this. I can't undo it. The damage is done. I don't go home. I don't want to face anyone. Not my family, not my friends. I don't deserve their understanding, their sympathy. I'm the one who pushed everything too far. I'm the one who ruined everything. I need time to think, to figure out how I got here, to figure out how I can fix the mess I've made of my life. I spend days in this self-imposed exile, cutting myself off from everything and everyone. My phone is filled with missed calls and messages, mostly from Linda, asking if I'm okay, telling me we need to talk. I don't respond. I can't. I know I have to face her eventually, but I don't know how to. I don't know if she'll even want to talk to me after what I did. I don't know if she'll ever look at me the same way again. And then, one day, I get a message. It's from Dylan. The message is short, almost too brief. We need to talk. I'm worried about Linda. I feel a cold knot in my stomach as I read those words. I don't want to respond. I don't want to face them, but I know I have to. I know this isn't something I can run from anymore. So, I meet him. We meet at a park, a neutral place where I don't have to face the mess I've made in my own home. Dylan is there when I arrive, sitting on a bench, his face unreadable. I can't tell if he's angry, concerned, or just tired of all the drama. Jake, he starts, his voice quiet. I don't know what happened between you and Linda, but she's not okay. She's not the same anymore. You've hurt her, and I think you know that. I can't look him in the eye. I know he's right. I've hurt her in ways I can't take back, and the guilt is consuming me. I feel small in that moment, completely insignificant in the face of what I've done. I don't deserve her forgiveness. I don't deserve to make things right. But still, I try. I try to explain. I try to make him understand. I didn't mean to hurt her. I stop myself. The words feel empty now. They feel like a weak excuse for the destruction I've caused. I can't change the past. I can't take back my actions, no matter how much I wish I could. Dylan sighs, his face softening just a little. "I don't think you meant to, Jake, but you still did. And now you have to own up to that. She deserves better than what you've given her." And that's when I realized something. I've been so focused on what I lost, on how I was hurt, that I never stopped to think about her. Linda didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of my turmoil. She didn't deserve to be hurt by me. She deserves someone who respects her, who sees her for who she is, not someone who's so consumed by their own pain that they can't see what's right in front of them. I walk away from the park feeling like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I can't undo what I've done, but I know one thing. I can change. I have to change. If there's any chance left of fixing what's broken, it has to start with me. The next few weeks are the hardest of my life. I go to therapy, I cut out the toxic parts of my life, and I start rebuilding myself from the ground up. I don't know if Linda will ever forgive me. I don't know if she'll ever look at me the same way again. But I can't keep living in the shadows of my mistakes. I can't keep drowning in my own guilt. One day, after months of silence, I hear from her. It's a simple message. "We need to talk." My heart skips a beat as I read the words. It's not a declaration of love. It's not an apology, but it's something. It's the possibility of healing, of finding a way forward. Not necessarily together, but as two people who've been through something painful and have come out the other side. I agree to meet her. The tension in my chest is almost unbearable as I wait. But when I finally see her, it's not like before. There's no bitterness in her eyes, no anger. Just distance. She's moved on. But there's something else there, too. There's understanding. There's the possibility of forgiveness, even if it doesn't come easily. We talk. We say everything that needs to be said. The air is thick with emotion, but it's not the kind of emotion I was expecting. It's not anger. It's not regret. It's simply closure. I apologize over and over again for everything I've done, for everything I put her through. She listens and she nods, but she doesn't say much. She doesn't need to. As I leave that meeting, I realize that the journey I've been on, this one that's consumed me with rage, with jealousy, with guilt, has finally come to an end. Not because Linda has forgiven me, but because I've learned something important. I've learned that the only way forward is through redemption. And the first step in that journey was finally accepting responsibility for my actions. And maybe, just maybe, this is the beginning of a new chapter, for both of us. The days that followed that conversation were the hardest yet. I felt a deep emptiness inside me that I couldn't ignore. Even with the possibility of redemption, there was still so much pain left in the wake of everything I'd done. The past wasn't something I could just forget or erase. It lingered like a shadow, a constant reminder of the mistakes I made and the person I had been. But at the same time, it felt different. I felt lighter. A small sense of peace began to creep into my heart, something I hadn't felt in months. I woke up each morning with a renewed sense of purpose, not to win Linda back, not to fix everything right away, but to fix myself, to become the person I always knew I could be, without the weight of jealousy, anger, or obsession dragging me down. It wasn't easy. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in a long time, I was proud of the steps I was taking. Even if those steps were small, they were mine. I found myself doing things I hadn't done in ages. I picked up hobbies I had long forgotten, reading books that inspired me, taking long walks in the park to clear my mind, and even joining a local support group for people struggling with emotional trauma and guilt. It wasn't about escaping my past, but about learning how to live with it, how to accept that I wasn't defined by my mistakes, but by how I chose to move forward. One day, as I was walking through the park, I saw her. Linda. She was sitting on a bench, reading a book, the sunlight casting soft shadows on her face. It felt like the world slowed down in that moment, like the air around us thickened with unspoken words. I didn't know what to expect, or even what I was supposed to do. I had made peace with the fact that things might never go back to how they were, and I had made peace with that too. But when she looked up and saw me, there was a moment, just a moment, when our eyes met. And for that split second, it felt like nothing had changed. It felt like we could pick up where we left off. But I knew better. I knew that everything had changed. And maybe that was okay. "Hey," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, though my heart was racing. She closed her book and smiled softly, but it wasn't the same smile she used to give me. It was quieter, more guarded, but there was warmth there, and that meant something. "Hi," she replied, her voice calm, but there was a certain distance in her tone. "How have you been?" I didn't answer right away. I wasn't sure what to say. The truth felt too heavy, but it was the only thing I could offer. "I've been working on myself," I said, my voice quiet but sure. "I've made a lot of mistakes, Linda, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away, or maybe even ever. But I'm trying to be a better person. I want to be someone who deserves the kind of love I was never able to give you." There was a long pause as she looked at me, her expression unreadable. I couldn't read her face. I didn't know if she was angry or if she understood. But there was a small flicker of something in her eyes, something that made me think maybe, just maybe, there was hope for me after all. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft, yet firm. "I don't know what's going to happen between us, Jake, but I can see that you've changed. And that's enough for now." And for the first time in a long time, I felt a weight lift off my chest. I wasn't expecting everything to be fixed in one conversation. I wasn't expecting her to welcome me back into her life immediately. But in that moment, I realized that the journey I'd been on, this long, painful road of self-discovery and regret, had finally brought me to a place where I could stand tall again. I could face my past, face her, and know that I was doing the best I could to make things right. We talked for a while longer, about small things, about life, about the changes we had both gone through. It wasn't a grand reconciliation. It wasn't an emotional scene where everything was suddenly perfect again. But it didn't need to be. I didn't need to fix everything at once. What mattered was that I was on the path to healing. What mattered was that Linda and I were both moving forward. Slowly, but surely. As I walked away from that conversation, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not just for Linda and me, but for myself. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it. I knew that, no matter where life took me, I could face it head on. I had learned the hard way that life wasn't about perfection. It was about learning, growing, and doing better each day. And that's what I was going to do. I couldn't undo the past, but I had the power to shape my future. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.